to the second season of Forbes India Beyond the Boardroom, and I'm your host, Ushnoda Paul. Today's guest is a woman who was named amongst Forbes Asia's Power Businesswomen list in 2020. She has been credited with growing a single clinic in South Mumbai into over 125 clinical labs. She was also honored with the Exemplary Women Leadership Award at the World Women Leadership Congress and Awards in 2014. We have with us someone who is considered a leader in the healthcare industry in India. It's Ameera Shah, the promoter and managing director of Metropolis Healthcare Limited. Welcome, Ameera, to Forbes India Beyond the Boardroom.
Thank you, June. Pleasure to be here.
So, Ameera, you belong to a family of doctors. Your parents, your dad, Dr. Sushil Shah, he's a pathologist. Your mother, Dr. Duru Shah, she's a very well-respected gynecologist. How was it like growing up with doctors, and why did you never think of becoming a doctor yourself?
So growing up, we were not talking about money or the toys that money buys or creating wealth. The conversation at the dining table was about medicine. It was about clinical excellence. It was about taking care of the patient. It was about having a positive impact on society. And I saw how my mother balanced, taking care of her patients along with, all the other things that she does in her life. And how, for even us as children, we realized very early on that life and death of a patient is far more important, probably in many cases, than her being there for a sports day or for, something that we may have liked her to be there for, or where other mothers were there. But we never felt bad about it because we were so proud of what she was doing and how she was having this deep impact on the world. And I think same for my father. So I think it was incredible. And I think growing up with those lessons of excellence and caring for others, I think was truly a blessing, really.
Why did you not think of taking up the profession yourself? You completely pivoted, you did finance, and did you never think of carrying on that mantle of being a doctor in the family?
For me, it was not my thing. It was not my passion. It didn't excite me. But what excited me was definitely sort of the impact that it made. And I think, therefore, when I went to the US and I studied business, I was deeply impacted by what Grameen Bank and Mohammed Yunus was doing in Bangladesh at the time, which was microfinancing and social enterprises. And it came back to the same roots of what I had seen at home. And this was a different way of having that similar kind of impact on society. And that's what excited me. How can I do the same thing through business?
Right. But I think as a teenage girl, you apparently used to spend several summer and winter holidays assisting your dad in his lab. Tell us about those experiences and how did that shape you up as a person?
I was 10, I think, going to my dad's lab, and I used to be there in the summers. I remember a month, 2 months, 3 months straight. And I used to go with him at 8 in the morning and come back with him at 8 o'clock at night. So I used to literally have 12-hour work days. And I often joke with him, this is child labor at its peak, unpaid child labor. And literally, I used to do everything from picking up the phones to labeling samples to, moving samples from one place to another. It was 1,800 square feet premise with 40 people. And there were only maybe 10 chairs. And there was a pantry which could accommodate 2 people to eat lunch at a time. And I used to sit with the staff and have lunch with them and call my father, sir. And it was this very interesting experience. And I think for me as a child, I absorbed so much of how to deal with customers. How do you get along with people of the employees of different stratas of society than me?
Of course, you were talking about your mother. She's such a well-respected gynecologist in her field. What would you say would be the biggest lesson you probably learned from her growing up?
And the one thing which she drove down sort of in our heads all the time was about how women have to be financially independent, right? From such a young age. It was always about, you have to be independent, you have to earn your own money, you have to have the confidence and empowerment to be able to make your own decisions. And she believed and felt that a lot of that came also from your own financial, ability to earn and manage your own money. So that was something which was told to us at a very early age. The other thing which we saw, which she didn't talk about, but we saw was, like I was saying, the deep impact that she had on people's lives and the kind of gratitude. We would walk into any restaurant and there was always some lady there whose, either baby she had delivered or some sister's baby she had delivered. And the gratitude, they would come and they would gush about her. And we saw that as children about the work that she did. And the impact she led, and how 30 years later, people were still so excited to see her because she had played such an important, momentous role in their lives, delivering their child.
It's amazing. I mean, you also, like you mentioned, you studied business in US. You actually went to Harvard Business School. You did owner-president
Management program.
Right. So Harvard is a lot of people's dreams, of course. It's a dream college. How was it like being a student there? Give us a glimpse.
Well, I went at a very different time, right? And I did not do the traditional MBA, which is, of course, a 2-year program and very prestigious, hard to get into, etc. What I ended up doing was a program like called the OPM, which is actually for already successful entrepreneurs, but who are looking to actually get exposure of being a student again. Because often entrepreneurs don't always get a chance to finish their studies or their degrees or whatever it is. And they start building their businesses, and they have to then sometimes go back to school to get some of the fundamentals. So actually in 2010, I decided to go back for this program, which is only 3 weeks at a time. And you go over 2.5 years, you go 3 times. But it was incredible because it gave me the opportunity to be a student again, to sit in class. And after 10 years of building my own business and bringing it to a successful stage, to have teachers teach you lessons which you're not learning by yourself is just a privilege.
After you completed your graduation, you went on a backpacking tour with 2 of your friends across Europe as a graduation gift to yourself with the money that you had saved. You went to Italy, Greece, Austria, Amsterdam. It's a very Imtiaz Ali sort of a movie scenario, very Bollywood. How did this trip kind of like make an impact on you at that age when you just graduated from college? How did it change you in any way, if it did?
I grew up when my parents are, incredibly liberal, very free, free-minded, progressive parents. And I sort of grew up not being protected and not being sort of sheltered at all. I traveled internationally when I was 16 on my own. So they gave me these opportunities in life to actually make my own decisions, to try things, to be adventurous, and not really stop me always from a safety angle. So a lot of this is actually a combination of those things where I've always been very free-spirited. And I think at the end of graduation, the idea was, hey, let's just go. Money is not going to be the biggest part of this trip. Let's just go backpacking. We'll live in little hostels. We'll not know exactly where we're going to live. We'll just go a day at a time. And let's just figure it out. Let's just be adventurous. And that was what was great about it, that you have 3 people who are just giving all of control up and saying, hey, let's just go with the flow and we'll figure things out. And that came from a sense of confidence that we weren't scared, we weren't suppressed, and we could manage ourselves, right? And I think that is a lesson in life for saying that usually all of us, as we get older especially, want that sense of certainty for everything we do. We want guarantees, we want assurance, we want safety. And the reality is there's none of that in life.
I think your father once apparently told you that whether you're a barber or a doctor or anything that you become, you just have to be absolutely best in that profession. He said something in those lines. Tell us a bit about that.
He always told us exactly that you do what you want, right? I'm never going to judge you for any different career you choose or you don't choose. You don't have to become a doctor or an engineer or a whatever. You do what you want. But whatever you do, you better damn be excellent at it. Like, you give it your best, you work your hardest, you be your most focused, and work towards excellence.
I mean, I hear that you play volleyball and tennis. Is sports something that you regularly indulge in, or something that you do occasionally?
So to be honest, till 2 years ago, I would say I regularly indulged in. I play tennis regularly. I play volleyball regularly, sport for me has always been. I love the outdoors, number one, and sport is a way to be outdoors. But I also love the camaraderie that comes with hitting a ball across, and the kind of banter that goes on between teams, or the kind of focus that you have to have in tennis, where your entire focus of being there in the moment is about just hitting that shot perfectly. And that kind of focus actually allows you to go into a meditative state, where you actually move away all the thoughts of the day and therefore move away all the pressure and the stress of the day, and you're just focused on that ball. And those that engagement then helps you actually calm your mind, release the pressure, and allow yourself to take the next day as a fresh day.
Great. Ameera, you're also a dog lover. Tell us about your pet. I know you have dogs, so tell us about it.
So I've always grown up with animals. I've had a Pom Spitz when I was very young. I then adopted a stray cat who I found on the road, who I named Meow. Very innovative name.
I was going to say, very innovative.
who was with us for a few years, had the cat and the dog at the same time. I then went on to the US in Austin, and I had 6 mice with my roommate at the time. Yeah, we had 6 mice. So it was actually a funny story because my roommate calls me one day, and she's one of my closest friends, and she says, "Listen, come to the exotic pet store because there's just ridiculous things happening here." I said, "What?" So I went there, and there was this whole tank of thousands and thousands of these little mice, right? And they were there because they were fed to the snakes. And she's like, how can we allow all these mice to die? Let's just take one home. And I was like, that's disgusting. I really don't want a mouse at home. I'm not a fan of mice as pet. I love dogs and cats, but not mice. She's like, oh, just try one. She put it on my arm and he ran around and he was cute. He was this small. And I was like, okay, one. And we landed up leaving with 6, right? I got totally scammed. And we spent
you did not have a cat as a pet that time.
No. I did not have a cat at the same time. And we spent days and months in putting little tubes for them and watching who'll run first and who'll crawl first. They became like our babies. And we had such a great time with them.
Ameera, there is this one really funny thing that I read, I think in one of your previous interviews, where you had mentioned that apparently the most searched for string on your name on Google is Ameera Shah husband. I mean,
that's true, unfortunately.
So much. And of course, we know about your achievements and everything. And then this is the most searched thing on Google. How do you deal with this? I laughed when I read that, honestly.
Let me tell you a strange story. So I remember this ET article once came out about my business and how well it was doing and the valuations and all this kind of stuff. And, whatever, you read it, you move on with life. The next day, I opened my Facebook and I suddenly have 300 requests suddenly. And I was just like, whoa, what's going on? And then I go through and there's 300 requests from men. So I was like, I don't know any of these people. Who are they? I have no idea who they are. So I was chatting with my husband. It was not my husband. So I was talking to him and I was like, this is really weird. I've got suddenly all these requests. And he's like, you are such a Dumbo. This article appeared. Suddenly all these single guys apparently know your value. And now you're getting all these requests. And they're hoping that tomorrow you date one of them.
So this prospects, basically, just lining up.
I told him, I said, you better be worried. I have so many options.
Women empowerment, I think, has been a cause that's been very close to your heart, and you started Empower Us to build a community of women entrepreneurs in the country. Tell us a little about that.
For many women who are entrepreneurs on their own and who are not part of a family business structure, it can be a very lonely journey because your closest friends happen to be usually women. Your girlfriends are not necessarily entrepreneurs and therefore can't always give you input on the kind of areas that you're stuck to. So where do you go? And that's how Empower Us was really born, was to say that, look, can I create a platform that gives that kind of support, that kind of mentorship, that kind of hand-holding, just to go through this journey with somebody versus going through it alone? And can there be peer-to-peer learning through it? Can there be learning from external resources? And that's how it's really grown over time.
So lastly, Ameera, I have to ask you, can you give an advice for all these young girls out there who aspire to become an entrepreneur someday?
My learning is just that I think, one, we've got to dream big. I think often as women, we're told to dream small. And I think we've got to we've got to build our own confidence and not wait for somebody else to validate it. Because often there are no 10 people waiting to validate a woman's dreams. And I think therefore we have to have our own and believe in them. Number two, I would say that doubt is something that comes to us very naturally. We have to channel the doubt in the right way to strengthen our skills and capabilities rather than allowing the doubt to push us backwards. And the third thing that I've seen is that we'll all come to forks and crossroads in our lives where we'll have to take funds on ourselves. We'll have to back ourselves completely. And when those choices come, if there's a choice between backing yourself or giving in to the doubt, back yourself fully. Because whether you land up succeeding or you land up not succeeding the way you think, not backing yourself will always create more doubt and lack of confidence. And backing yourself will always create more confidence and less doubt. And those have been my learnings. And, honestly, the rest is so much of it is luck, so much of it is chance, so much of it is privilege, so much of it is experience. But these things are in our control.
A lot of things are trial and error too, I guess, when you're like starting off and learning on your own.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Ameera. It was such a pleasure having you on our show. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure, June, and great research and great questions. Enjoyed the interview.
Thank you so much, Ameera. Take care.